just going through the same thing over and over, and just asking myself, what am I not getting from this? Hey guys, welcome back to Meet the Souls. It's Amanda here, and this video is going to be tea. We're going to dive into the wilderness season, which is a period of growth, testing, and transformation that I believe that I'm on. This is a runner-up video to the last video that I posted about the godly rebrand, how I'm allowing God to reshape my life and just deepening my relationship with Him overall. Quick little backstory. I'm coming from being a lukewarm Christian into wholeheartedly giving God my yes, giving Jesus my yes. So I'm just taking you guys along for this journey. So this is part 2. It's going to be really good, a little bit deep, a little bit personal. I'm going to get vulnerable with you guys. So a lot of gems will be said. Go ahead and leave me comments of any tips that you would like to give me as I undergo this journey. And if you're new here, please subscribe so you can be a part of it all. And let's dive right in. So your wilderness season is like a temporary period of solitude. It's where God will refine you the most. It's where you're going to cultivate your relationship with Him. You're going to develop your faith, and you're going to learn to trust Him, because things just won't make sense, if I'm being quite honest. So it's like, for me personally, I gave God my yes. I'm being obedient. I'm giving Him my time. I'm being in His presence every day. I'm doing all the things that I feel I need to do personally, on a personal level, to deepen my relationship with Him. And then things start coming my way. And first I was like, okay, is this the spiritual warfare everybody talks about when they say after you become saved, after you give God your yes, that the enemy will try to attack you? I do think maybe a part of it is, but at the same time, I do think God is just testing me, like, okay, you say you trust me, let's see it. You say you have faith in me, let's see it. And also, a lot of the points that I brought up in my last video about things that I wanted to work on and develop on this journey, like the fruits of the Spirit, Proverbs 31 woman, deepening my relationship, having faith, I feel like all of those things that I talked about, God literally said, all right, bet that up. Let's see it. Let's see you put it into work. So I want to note, like, while you're in your wilderness season, that it's quite possible for you to delay the promises that God had for you if you do not see that you're being tested, or if you do not show growth or show that you're learning from the season that you're in, from the problems that you're encountering. And so like some tips that I suggest if you are undergoing this season is, don't complain, don't become impatient, and definitely do not try to reverse and test God or question Him, because all these things will only delay the promises that He has set for you. And I mean, okay, let's think about what refinement is. So when there's a silversmith, he's refining a sword, and he's refining it, he's refining the silver, he's refining it, and he's putting it into hot fire, and he has to keep putting it into fire until he knows that it's ready and that it's completely refined, is when he can see his reflection in it. So basically, while God is putting you through this refinement period, He's going to keep putting you through tests. He's going to keep putting you through the fire, literally, until He can see His reflection in you. And that's that Christ-like, living like Christ, having the fruits of the Spirit. So when I say you can lose your blessings, I'm talking about like how the Israelites were promised to go to this promised land, right? So all they had to do was go through the valley for a little bit, and then they'll get there. And that was their period of testing. But they complained, they were pissed off, they basically were not living right. And they extended that period in the wilderness to 40 years, a trip that was supposed to take 11 days. So it's very important as you're going through this season and you're wondering why, not to lean on your own understanding, but to remember what is in the Word, because God is literally just trying to test like everything that you're learning, and test like your faith at the end of the day. That's what it is. So that being said, I hope while I'm in my wilderness season that, and I'm sorry guys, my dog is kind of like having an anxiety attack right now, and I'm going to speak on that in this video too, as part of what I'm going through right now. But that being said, if you hear her barking or growling or making noises in the background, I'm sorry, but it's just my reality at the moment. So yeah, in my personal wilderness season, I'm hoping that I won't have to keep relearning the same things over and over, and that, I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna get it on the first time, because I might not, because I mean, we're humans and we fall short at the end of the day. But I'm hoping that I can be receptive enough and I can listen and be obedient, most of all, enough and trustworthy of God and trust in Him fully, that I won't have to keep going through the same things over and over, and that I can learn from something and make it to the next step. Because I don't know, that's one of my biggest fears. Because before I knew Him, I know that there was still tests in my life, but before I knew Him on the deep level that I'm learning to know Him on now, I really felt like I was like in this cycle, just going through the same thing over and over, and just asking myself, what am I not getting from this? So now that I am in His Word and I'm learning exactly how He wants me to live and how He wants me to seek Him, and what our conversations are like, and what He's bringing to light for me internally, I'm hoping that I can use that and now break out of some of these cycles and break out of some of the things that He's bringing up in this season. Anyway, so let's jump into some things that I'm realizing this journey. So the first thing I want to talk about is, so the first thing God brought to my attention while being in this season was to fix my home. And that's so funny, because I'm like, I mean, obviously none of us are perfect, but and before I was mindful of all this, I would get like little nudges in my heart when something wouldn't go. I mean, we're not gonna be perfect, especially as a parent, and especially I'm a single mom, and sometimes there's a lot of pressure to like not just get it right, but just a lot of pressure in general, like trying to juggle momming, working, going after your dreams, taking care of your home, being a good friend. Yeah, it's a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot. So I don't always and didn't always make the best choices. And on top of that, we have to realize, even though like growing up, you say you would never become your parents, in a way that's all you know. And I'm not like throwing any shade to my parents, because they are great, but I do notice that I did pick up on some of the traits that I didn't like receiving as a child from my parents, that I saw myself now doing to my children. So that being said, it was brought to light that I need to fix my home first. I need to make sure, you know, even though my babies are very young, they're 3 and 5, I don't want to like do things wrong or make them ever feel like they have to heal from their childhood, like make them ever feel like they're unheard, or just raise them in a way that I'm accustomed to being raised, coming from a Caribbean background, where I know there's a better way to go about things. And I think it all goes back to the fruits of the Spirit as well. Like when I think about what they are, like gentleness and kindness and joy and patience, most of all, I had to really start thinking, I mean, I hate to say it, but what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? Like if I'm in a situation and at the end of the day, they're children, their kids are going to be kids. Obviously discipline is necessary, but sometimes you don't have to lose your cool for the slightest thing. And just because I was dealing with pressure from outside life that had nothing to do with them, doesn't mean I take it out on them either. So it was some things I need to be mindful about how I speak to them, because the way I speak to them will be how they speak to others in the world. Mindful of how I speak to others in front of them, because I would even notice if I lose my cool on maybe somebody else that's in my home, or the animals when they're doing something, I would notice that I would see those things in them, and I'll try to correct it, but I had to realize, hey, where is it coming from though? Where are they learning those traits? Where are they learning those behaviors? These were things that it's like, hold on. I didn't know He was going to read me. And that's the thing. God's going to read you. He's going to show you every bit of you. When you're on this journey, there's going to be parts of you that maybe you even knew, but you were ignoring because you just couldn't accept it. We like to think that we're the best things out. Obviously be confident, but sometimes you have to check yourself. You have to check yourself, and you have to know when you're doing something wrong or not doing things completely right. But anyways, there was a lot of like generational things that I needed to break, especially when it comes to speaking with them and understanding their emotions and just being there for them, like knowing that I am their support. I never want them to grow up and feel like they have to heal from their childhood or feel like they can't speak to me. I'm not trying to be their best friend. At the end of the day, I'm their mom. But I want them to know that there's support here and there's love here and this home is filled of that. Like, you know what I mean? I don't ever want them to feel alone in their own home. Like, the biggest fear. And not only did I have to, well, most of all, like back on the fruits of the spirit thing when it comes to my kids and my fur babies, patience. I remember in the first video I told you guys that I completely lack patience. And that has been the thing that God has been trying me with this whole entire time. Like, when I say he's refining me because I seriously lack it. Like, I suck at having patience completely. And the tests and the trials, from the kids to the fur babies to like my own personal ambitions that I wanted to do, like, he's telling me wait. He's telling me wait. He's telling me be softer. He's telling me be kinder. He's telling me to slow down. That's the main thing. Slow down. Outside of fixing the relationships that I have with people in my home, I had to actually fix things that were in my home. So God like put on my heart, well, one, he told me to anoint my house. And I think as a Christian, especially one that's becoming newly saved, anointing your house is very important because we have to remember that there's gates, right? And the things that you open up your spirit to, sometimes you bring things back home with you that don't need to be in your home. Because I did it before. I did it probably like 2 years ago, but so much has happened within those 2 years. I was not living right. Let's just put it that way. And this house needed a complete cleansing. So he put that on my heart. I did that, as well as getting rid of things that are not of him. So I'm talking shirts, books, other things that I won't go too deep in, but anything that is not of him, I had to go through and cleanse. And I think it's very important when you do go on a journey with God to get rid of things that aren't what he stands for, because that's not what you stand for anymore. You're set apart now. So you have to live by that and really make sure that the energy that lives in some of these things aren't coming back out and into you. Outside of just fixing my physical home though, he did call me to fix my internal home. So there was a lot in my spirit that I needed to sit with and realize. And I was completely convicted on my selfishness. And the way I was able to realize this, so I was in Bible study with some friends, and one of the girls I was in Bible study, and she brought up how to love is to serve. And I realized I don't serve people as much as I should. So he really shined light on my selfishness and how I was so stuck within myself that I didn't see others. And what it felt like is like I'm in a room. So imagine a room and there's mirrors all over the wall. And it's like, obviously, we all think from our perspective of ourselves. But it's like when I looked out at the world, because I'm surrounded by mirrors, all I saw was myself too. So it's just like this continuation of I couldn't see past myself. If I was emotional about something, I was obviously right. Even though like I feel like emotions are like the biggest lie ever, but I always thought I was right if I felt something deeply. I always felt if I was tired, then that means I couldn't show up for others. I always was like on the tip of choose you, pour into you. But how much, I'm not saying that you don't take care of yourself, but how many hours in a day are you going to spend pouring into yourself and not giving it back out to others? At that point, your cup is overflowing. So in order for me to fix my internal home, that had to be me dying to myself over and over and over. And I know you hear that phrase a lot, like, let's just talk about a little bit what it means to die to yourself. The journey of following Christ is to become more Christ-like. And so a lot of the ways of our flesh is opposite to the ways that Christ wants you to live and to follow him. So dying to myself means literally uprooting everything I've known, everything I've felt about my old ways if it doesn't align with the way of Jesus Christ. The fact that my flesh keeps fighting what my spirit wants, which is like such an internal battle of doubting myself, lack of belief, lack of faith, when it's like my spirit knows what it wants, but my flesh is just kind of like still believing some of the old lies that I was telling myself. But now when you're walking with Christ, you have to really understand that you are beautifully and fearfully made, and you're made in his image. So it's very important for you to realize that your worth is so much more than you can imagine. It's important for you to have that confidence to go out and to be bold. So I just had to really unlearn a lot of the things that I continuously told myself, a lot of things that I allowed the enemy to make me believe about myself that aren't true. And on top of just the bad habits that I picked up along the way. And that's not easy. That takes a lot of accountability of your actions, of your thought process, of everything. And like, I mean, literally I go throughout a day and the things that come through my mind, you know how much thoughts I have to rebuke in my own head? Like, it's crazy. But you have to do that because you need your mind and your heart to align to the word of God. If you want to deepen your relationship, and if you want to be Christ-like, if you want to embody those fruits, these are all important things that you have to do on your journey. I didn't want the fact that I couldn't die to my old ways, that my flesh was fighting my spirit, to keep me in the wilderness season longer than I needed to be. So it's still a journey that I'm on. It's still something that I am learning for myself, or still learning to overcome. But with the grace of God, and by the grace of God and his mercies and him just changing the desires of my heart as a whole, I really do feel like that I'm going to make it out of this period. And this will just all make me like grow deeper in my faith and in my trust in him overall, because seeing him work through me, seeing him change these things about me that I'm almost 30 years old, for 30 years now, is not me. I can never do it by my flesh. It's literally by his grace and his mercies that I am able to even be accountable about all of this and to talk about it with you guys. So yeah. All right, y'all. So it's about to get a little bit scary. But think about the wilderness. Think about being out in the wilderness by yourself. And that's scary, right? So I want to bring up how before Jesus started to do his teachings, after his baptism, he was led into the wilderness by the Spirit, and he was brought there to be tempted by the devil. So it says, after he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. Then the tempter approached him and said, if you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread. He answered, it is written, man must not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. Now, the devil takes him through more tests, and he was able to pass all of them with flying colors. I mean, of course, he's Jesus. And then it comes to the point where in verse 10, this is Matthew 4, guys, sorry. Matthew 4, verse 10, Jesus told him, go away, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him. Then the devil left him, and angels came and began to serve him. And I bring that up because this was Jesus's test before he was able to do or walk into the purpose or walk into the promise that God had promised for him. Walk into the purpose that God has promised for him. And I feel like, especially like bringing it back to myself and the journey that I'm on, being that this is happening so soon after rededicating my life to him and giving him my yes again, I do feel like I'm being tested overall. And I think one of the number one places outside of patience where I'm being tested is fear, because not just fear of obviously things that you're scared of, like phobias, like spiders or whatever, but fear of like certain situations. And I noticed that I run away from a lot of things that I should confront. Sometimes I feel like confronting, and sometimes I don't. I'll just run from the problem. I ran away from jobs. I ran away from relationships. I ran away. Like, I'll just run. I'll find a way to be comfortable instead of dealing with it. Obviously, when we're speaking about fear, we know that fear does not come from God. It says, for the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. So when it comes to the spirit of fear, I know automatically whenever I'm feeling anxious or fearful that does not come from God. But we have to remember that sometimes God will, just like how Jesus had to deal with the devil in the wilderness, will let the enemy tempt you, will let the enemy, I won't say like fully attack you, but like will let the enemy do his plans just to test you, just to see how you would deal with this situation. So I dealt with a little bit of spiritual warfare while being in my wilderness season, and it was terrifying. I mean, terrifying. I won't go too much into details, but I had to really look at fear in its face and stand up to it instead of like running away from it, which I normally would have done before. I would have found a way to soothe, to be comforted. I would have found a way to like try to find comfort in the situation or run away from the situation until the situation went away altogether completely. But what I had to do was pray. I literally had to pray. I literally had to go back to the word. I had to believe in everything that Jesus was saying, everything that God's saying in this Bible about when it comes to fear and how you need to literally tell the enemy, be gone. Like Jesus said in verse 10, Matthew 4, then Jesus told him, go away, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him. You literally have to tell the enemy, get about your face. And I had to do that with the spirit of fear. And is it something that I hope I never have to? I mean, I feel like I'm human, so I'm going to deal with this coming up. But it was just something that caged me for so long that overcoming that first part felt like a triumph to me. And I mentioned earlier that some of the traits that I put in my first video that I wanted to work on as I went in this journey, that God kind of like brought it up right away and was like, okay, you mentioned all these things. Let's get to work. So that of being or embodying some of the traits of the Proverbs 31 women, everything that she is, it's not easy to just develop on your own. And that definitely takes a lot of refining from God. And it will take a lot of refinement from God for me to get to that point. But he shined light on how I should overcome my laziness. I had the realization that yes, I do have a lot on my plate, but I can handle it gracefully, because the Proverbs 31 woman, she handles everything gracefully, but she does it because she's strengthened by God. So the soft life that's preached in the world that I wanted, I had to like really give up on that thought or realize, okay, well, to embody this woman who's worth so much, you have to realize why this woman is worth so much. And I think it all comes down to her grace and the way she trusts God. And these are things that he brought to light for me as well while being in this season. So yeah, guys, this journey, this season that I'm in, this wilderness season that I'm in, it's not easy. You know, I'm being tested and going through trials every day when it comes to my patience. I'm literally going eye to eye with the things that I was afraid of the most. I'm overcoming internal battles. I'm seeing myself for who I really am and finding a way to be better, but all by the grace of God. And these are all things that are being brought up to me by God himself. And I think even though I'm not through it yet, it's definitely making me a lot more confident, and it's definitely making me have more faith and more trust in him. And I think if we keep that in mind, that at the end of the day, we're not made to be perfect, but we are strengthened by him. And he wants us to show up in our weaknesses. He still wants us to push through and to depend on him, which could be a lot about what this wilderness season is to depend on him, surrender to him. Especially if you're someone like me who had to really give up my need for control and to lean on him and surrender to him. The wilderness season will test you, but there's beauty in it. There's beauty in this season because, as I said before, this is where your faith will develop, and this is where your relationship will be deepened and be more curated with him. So yeah, I guess I encourage all of you guys to think about what season you're currently in with your walk with Christ, and think about how you can reflect more on where you're at internally, outwardly, see where you can improve, and really like get into that place, get into his presence where you can listen to him, because he will show you like these are not all things that we'll be able to do by our flesh alone, but through his spirit, you'll be able to overcome anything. And that concludes this video. Please feel free to share your stories with me either in the comments, or you can hit me up on my Instagram personally and you can DM me. But I would love to like build a community with you guys. If you have any tips about how I can better walk through this season, I would love to hear that as well. And if you're new here and you want to be a part of this journey, please subscribe. And I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. And I can't wait to share what else God reveals to me as I'm on this rebranding journey with him. See you guys soon. Bye.